President Cyril Ramaphosa is due to co-chair the 8th South Africa European Council Summit, which aims to strengthen ties between our nation and the bloc. This gathering comes amidst growing tensions with the United States, which has threatened to review the African Growth and Opportunity Act and made disparaging attempts made by the White House about South Africa. The summit aims to strengthen ties with the EU, already throwing its weight behind South Africa's G20 presidency. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo is at Tuynhuys in Cape Town and joins us now live. A lot of people are wondering, Ziyanda, whether these are two parties hurt, obviously, by comments made by US President Donald Trump and his de facto Prime Minister, Elon Musk, and then now this Tuynhuys, which in essence is perhaps less informed by a long-planned agenda, but more by recent events, and they are now trying to find ways in which they can collaborate and perhaps speak in one voice. What are you hearing?
Well, not quite, to be fair, on the South African government and the European Union, because these summits, and it's not just the SA-EU summit, it's the 8th one. It's been there since 2007. There are also a lot of high-level talks that take place. In fact, last month, our very own International Relations Minister, Ronald Lamola, met with his counterpart in the EU to discuss matters of foreign policy. And of course, both blocs, our country and the bloc of being the European Union, all agree on the issues of values such as constitutionalism, dealing with rising geopolitical instability, which you are referring to there in terms of Donald Trump. But of course, we cannot deny, Vuyo, that there is a level of urgency that is now in place because of what US President Donald Trump has said, both about the European Union and South Africa and other countries such as Mexico and Canada, which have had tariffs implemented against them. What we're seeing now are literally the winds of change and the reconfiguring of the global, global relations and the multilateral system being put under a stress test in essence, Vuyo. So today is really a symbol of that, and the European Union throwing its weight behind our G20 presidency in a week when Donald Trump had very disparaging comments to say about South Africa, about our Land Expropriation Act and what it means, its interpretation, offering refugee status to Afrikaners. And of course, then, as we see in America and many parts of the world, actually, the decline in democratic principles and values, which is something then that is a commonality between South Africa and the European Union.
Of course, I mean, reflecting back on the stage that the president of South Africa, of the European Union, they stood together, I remember, in Brazil, in Rio, and made all manner of proposals about forging a future together. Has there been any indication yet as to what this future relationship is going to hinge on?
Well, there are several things that they're looking at. Expediting just energy transition, that's one thing we agree on, and climate change. We also agree on principles of trade. Just in 2024 alone, trade between South Africa and the European Union amounted to 49 billion euros alone. So there's going to be a lot of ramping up on such activities, economic activities, and the trade of goods. And there are lots of other principles that we're going to hear, and even discussing then, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2023 and where the South African government and the European Union stand when it comes to that. We know that Donald Trump has actually seemingly negotiated a temporary ceasefire and has said that it's now in Russia's hands to resolve this conflict. But there's certainly also going to be a discussion there because there was also an African peace mission. Whether or not these things will get operational personalized or escalated is what we're going to hear then from our president and his two counterparts in the European Council and European Commission.
So we are indeed expecting a briefing afterwards where we'll get a sense of what would have gone on behind those closed doors.
Absolutely. We're expecting trilateral talks. That would be, of course, between Antonio Costa and Ursula von der Leyen, and, of course, our very own President Cyril Ramaphosa. They will have that discussion talking about those themes that I've just unpacked, but really also how do we form some kind of a reconfiguration that will include China, which is our largest trading partner. How do you ensure that there is a firm stand against a backslide, really, Vuyo, in democratic principles, as I've said, constitutionalism, and the rules of engagement when we talk about our multilateral system?
Ziyanda Ngcobo, keeping an eye outside Tuynhuys, keeping an eye on that meeting between South Africa and the European Union. And as she just told us, we will hear from the involved parties a little later on as to what it is exactly they would have agreed to between and among themselves in the face of everything that the European Union and South Africa face, especially on the back of comments made by US President Donald Trump.